All right, so you sent me these audio clips, right? Sounds like some kind of course on building rapport.
Yeah, seems to be.
This guy, he's got this idea. He calls it social introversion. And I gotta say, it's got me curious.
It's an interesting concept, for sure.
So what's the deal with this social introversion thing? What's he even talking about?
Well, he kind of describes it like, this protection mechanism like we created ourselves.
Like armor?
Yeah, exactly, armor. Like we put it on to deal with all the pressures, all the social stuff of modern life.
Makes sense.
And he specifically talks about like big cities, thinks they're kind of breeding grounds for this, like LA.
LA, yeah, I can definitely feel that way. Like everyone's trying to keep up, comparing yourself to everyone
That's
else.
exactly it. A
Yep.
competition, comparison,
Yeah.
and it can be overwhelming.
Totally. But I gotta ask, this whole social introversion thing, how does it connect to like the classic introversion, the
Yeah.
shy versus outgoing thing?
Right, right. Well, this is where it gets even more interesting because he actually links it back to Carl Jung, his work on psychological types.
Oh, Jung. Yeah, introversion, extroversion, that whole deal.
Exactly. But remember, with Jung, it wasn't just about being shy or outgoing. It was more about where you get your energy.
Ah, right, right. Like extroverts get energy from being around people, and introverts need to recharge by being alone.
Exactly. So this expert, he's suggesting that social introversion is more about feeling drained by social interaction, not necessarily about being a quiet person.
I see, I see. So it's more of a state than a fixed personality trait.
Right. And it's funny because in the recordings, this guy, he actually seems pretty outgoing, like engaging, enthusiastic.
Huh, interesting. So he considers himself an introvert.
He does, which really challenges those stereotypes. Not all introverts are hiding in the corner, and not all extroverts are the life of the party.
Makes you think, huh? So, okay, we're getting a sense of what this social introversion is, but I'm thinking, our modern lives, all the technology and stuff, does that play a role here?
That's where it gets really interesting. He actually argues that things like TV, internet, even pornography can actually make this social introversion worse.
Whoa, he went there. Pornography.
He did.
Yeah.
And his thinking is it's all about escaping, right? You get temporary relief from like real world interactions,
Yeah.
but it ends up making you feel more isolated, maybe even inadequate in the long run.
I can see that. Like we're constantly plugged in, but somehow more disconnected than ever.
That's the paradox, right?
Hmm.
So the question is, how do we break free from this cycle?
Yeah, how do we like heal from this?
Well, he's got this solution, and it's pretty out there. He calls it a psychic ram dump.
a psychic ram dump. What the heck is that?
I know, right? Sounds intense. But he uses this computer analogy. Our brains are like computers.
Limited processing power.
Exactly. Too many thoughts, worries, information overload.
So this psychic ram dump is like clearing all that out.
That's it. He suggests journaling. Just write down everything, whatever's in your head, no censoring, no judgment.
Like a brain detox.
You got it.
Yeah.
And once you've cleared some space, he says, take it a step further. Reconnect with nature.
Nature. How does that fit in?
Well, he believes that being in nature, whether it's a park, a forest, even your backyard, it's incredibly restorative.
Like hitting the reset button.
Yeah, like a full system reboot.
I like it. Brain detox, nature recharge. But what about all that escaping we were talking about? TV, internet, all that.
He's pretty clear on that. Got to cut back.
Yeah.
Whether it's mindless TV, scrolling on social media, or, the pornography, he thinks we need to reclaim our time and energy.
To make space for real connection, right? With ourselves and with others. But how do we actually do that? How do we go from less socially introverted to actually building like real rapport?
That's where it gets really interesting. He's got some specific techniques, but I think we should save those for the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, you've got me hooked. Can't wait to hear more. Okay, so we're back. And you were about to tell me some of this guy's techniques for building rapport.
Right, because remember, he really thinks you got to do that inner work first.
Right, right. The journaling, the nature thing. So then what? How do we actually connect with people?
Well, he talks about this idea of feeling into the other person's energy.
Okay, feeling into their energy.
Yeah, and I know it might sound kind of, out there,
A little woo-woo.
but he's got a practical way of explaining it.
I'm listening.
So it's not just about, like, observing their body language.
Mhm.
He says you got to try to actually sense how they're feeling, like on a deeper level.
Okay, so it's like more than just seeing how they're acting.
Exactly. He even says, like, try to feel their insecurities, their uncertainties.
Oh, that's deep.
But his point is, when you recognize that shared humanity, it creates compassion. connection.
Makes sense. So less analyzing, more empathizing.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
recognizing, like, the human stuff we all share
Yeah.
beneath the surface.
I like that. Okay, but how do you actually do that? Do I just stare at them and like try to read their mind?
He actually gives this technique called mirroring. It's about subtly reflecting their posture, their movements.
Mirroring. Like if they cross their arms, I cross mine.
It's not about, like, mimicking exactly, more about creating this resonance, this shared space.
But doesn't that seem kind of, I don't know, manipulative?
He stresses it's got to be genuine, like real curiosity, a desire to understand them.
Not just like controlling them.
Right. He thinks when you approach rapport with empathy, it all kind of flows naturally.
Okay, so less hacking, more heart. I dig it. So mirroring, feeling their energy, reflecting. What else?
Well, then he talks about leading.
Leading, like taking charge,
Yeah, but in traditional rapport stuff, leading is often about influencing.
getting them to follow you.
Right.
Yeah.
But this guy, he's got a different spin.
What's he say?
He says if you've done that groundwork, connecting with yourself, feeling into them, then leading becomes more like a dance. Like responding to their cues, letting the interaction flow organically.
Ah, like you're in sync.
Exactly. And he contrasts this with what he calls artificial rapport. It's like mimicking without that real connection.
Like trying to force a puzzle piece into the wrong spot.
Perfect analogy. It might look like it fits, but it's not really creating a whole.
Right, right. Okay, so this guy's all about the mindful approach, the heart-centered stuff. But can we really just feel our way into deeper connections?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And he admits it takes practice. Developing that sensitivity, trusting your intuition.
So there's skill involved. It's not just like be a nice person and hope for the best.
Not quite. And remember, you talked about the bull and the calf.
Yeah, the calm energy versus the frantic energy.
That calm presence, it doesn't just happen. You got to cultivate that inner stillness, that purpose.
Like steering the ship instead of being swept away by the current.
Precisely. And remember, he thinks when you have that purpose, you become more magnetic. You're not desperately seeking connection because you're already fulfilled.
So you attract what you radiate.
Exactly. And that's where gratitude comes in. He thinks when you appreciate what you have, your health, your relationships, it shifts your energy.
From scarcity to abundance.
Boom. And that makes you more attractive because you're not coming from a place of need.
Like you become this source of positive energy. People want to be around you.
And he thinks even small acts of kindness, like letting someone merge in traffic or smiling at a stranger, they create a ripple effect.
It's about recognizing we're all connected, right? Contributing to a better world, all that. Okay, I love the positivity, but let's be real. Life throws curveballs. How do you stay peaceful, grateful when things are tough?
He's got something to say about that, too. He says inner stillness isn't about denying negative emotions. It's about observing them without getting swept away.
So you acknowledge the tough stuff, but don't let it control you.
Exactly. And then he talks about letting go, surrendering to what you can't control.
Like just giving up.
He makes a distinction. Surrendering is about accepting the present moment, trusting things will work out. Giving up is like losing hope.
Choose your battles. Focus on what you can change.
You got it. He uses the example of addiction. He thinks fighting it creates this constant struggle. But surrendering to it, admitting its power, can be the first step to breaking free.
Wow. Admitting defeat to achieve victory. That's deep.
Right. He applies it to insecurities, too. Trying to force yourself to be different just creates conflict.
Like swimming upstream.
Yeah, exhausting. But accepting yourself, flaws and all, lets you relax, go with the flow.
So self-acceptance is key.
It's a huge part. He thinks when you stop judging yourself so harshly, you create space for others to accept you, too. You're not projecting that insecurity anymore.
Like you're more comfortable in your own skin.
And that confidence makes you more attractive. Which brings us back to stillness. He says it's not about being a statue. It's about finding that calm center within yourself, no matter what's going on around you.
Like the eye of the hurricane. Peaceful, even though there's chaos all around.
Perfect. And he really believes this is the key to attracting the right people. When you're grounded, you radiate this peace, this confidence that draws people in.
You become like a beacon of light.
Exactly. And he says trust that the right connections will come when you're in that state. Don't force it. Just be open.
So I'm hearing a lot about letting go of control. What does he say about that specifically?
He thinks when you try to control everything, you create resistance. You block the natural flow of things.
Trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Right. He suggests setting intentions, but then surrendering to the process.
Planting a seed, letting it grow.
That's it. And he also talks about following your intuition, even if it seems illogical.
Even if it seems kind of crazy.
Sometimes. He tells this story about getting directions to the airport, but then feeling this pull to go a different way. Turns out his intuition was right.
So trust your gut.
Exactly. He thinks it's about tapping into a deeper wisdom. Okay, so I'm starting to see the big picture. This isn't just about tricks to manipulate people. It's like a whole new way of being.
That's exactly it. He thinks this shift in being can change your life, even the world around you.
It's all connected, right? Like raising your own vibration, contributing to a more loving world, all that.
Yeah.
Wow, this is powerful stuff. But before we wrap up, you mentioned some specific techniques for cultivating stillness and purpose.
Oh, you're right. We've got a few more things to unpack.
Okay, lead the way. I'm ready for part 3.
Okay.
Okay, so we left off talking about specific techniques for cultivating that inner stillness and purpose.
Right, he does have some.
Spill the beans. I want to hear him.
Well, he goes back to journaling, actually.
Journaling. But we already talked about,
Yeah.
like, the psychic ram dump, right?
Just as different. He calls this directed journaling.
Directed journaling. Okay, what's that about?
It's less about, like, venting and more about actually shaping your reality.
Whoa, shaping your reality. That
Yeah.
sounds pretty powerful. Yeah, he thinks so. He suggests using it to, like, really get clear on your goals and also to deal with, like, those limiting beliefs that we all have.
So it's like being really intentional with your writing.
Exactly. He suggests actually writing your goals down as if they've already happened.
Like, instead of I want a fulfilling relationship, I'd write, I am in a loving relationship.
That's it. He thinks when you do that, it's like you're programming your subconscious.
To believe it's already true.
Yeah, he believes you create this energy that can actually attract those experiences.
Okay, but what about the limiting beliefs?
Right. So for those, he says, explore them in your writing. Ask yourself, like, where did this belief come from?
Is it even true?
Exactly. By questioning them, you can start to weaken their hold on you.
Like shining a light on them.
You got it.
Oh.
And then, once you identify those beliefs, he suggests using affirmations.
Affirmations, those positive statements.
Right. Like, if you think you're not worthy of love, you would write, I am worthy of love and belonging.
So it's like retraining your mind to think differently.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
He thinks it can actually change your self-image over time.
Makes sense. It all goes back to that inner work, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And then finally, he has this suggestion that I think is really cool. He says, cultivate a sense of playfulness in your interactions.
Playfulness.
Yeah, like let go of that need to control everything.
Just be more open and curious. Have fun with it.
Exactly. He says, see every interaction as a chance to learn and grow, even if it doesn't turn into a romantic thing.
Like we're all just exploring life together.
I love that. And he reminds us, we're not alone in wanting those genuine connections.
Oh, that's kind of sweet. Man, this deep dive has been really insightful. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's been awesome exploring this with you.
Yeah, thanks for breaking it all down.
Anytime. And remember, it's not about mastering everything overnight. It's a journey, right?
A journey, yeah.
To better understand ourselves and connect with others in a deeper way.
And that's what it's all about. Well said. After all this talk about inner stillness, purpose, gratitude, I think our listeners are probably wondering, okay, but how do I actually do that?
Right. It's one thing to talk about it.
Yeah. So to our listeners out there, I challenge you. How can you cultivate those things in your own life? How can you attract the kind of connections and experiences that you truly desire?
That's worth thinking about.
It is. So much food for thought today.
Thanks for joining us on another deep dive.
Until next time.